Hello, everyone. I wanted to be a part of the discussion physically, although, but that I don't think is going to be possible because of the difficult internet connectivity at my end. Uh, the last session was very inspiring, and the presentations were very good, and I'm feeling I'm really missing out. Uh, but anyway, to go on with my presentation, I think reading Weil really opened horizons for me. And I kind of found a philosopher friend in her, I would say. And a lot of her deviations of how she's reading Marx, of how she's kind of also creating um, a structure that is not kind of fighting with industrialization, modernization, um, uh, but it is kind of fighting an inner malice, uh, something that is inside us. And as far as I could understand what Way wanted to say, and maybe the pounding question for her was, how can we stabilize what is within us? How can we find home in a home? And if we manage to find home in a home, we'll perhaps manage to find home in a factory, um, in a trade union meeting, um, amusement park, wherever. So therefore, I would start with my presentation, and I would want to elaborate on how she understands uprootedness and the mechanisms of uprootedness. So she starts off, I would say, as understanding uprootedness is the biggest violation of human soul, and she kind of also explains what roots are for her. And she says that roots may be understood as she says roots may be understood as, or roots are by virtue of real, active, and natural participation in life of a community, bringing present, past, and future expectations together. She's also saying that roots uh, should be multiple for us. And it is only then that through these experiences of participation will the population, people, draw moral, intellectual, and spiritual essence of life. So this is kind of the making of us, the making of the within in us. And from here, she goes on to say that uprootedness has kind of three external factors, three factors. And she says one is military conquest. I think military conquest, war, violence also becomes an important undertone for her, because she has experienced that in her surrounding, and because it's the wartime that she's writing in, she's experienced, etc. So I think therefore military conquest is something that both bothers her, and she is trying to find a way to deal with it. Yeah. mm, for herself, and also for the world. uh, but to come back to the presentation and what she's saying about the relationship between military conquest and uprootedness is that when a space is attacked. Now this attack can be by people who have migrated from a place and have come to stay there, and it can be by people who have come to attack and may go back. In the first scenario, she says that the feeling of being uprooted is the intensity is lower, and in the second case, the intensity is higher. But in both cases, uh, the natives of the space are going to feel uprooted. Second, she says, is the money power, and third is economic domination. In all three cases, she's saying that the native manages to lose the ability uh, of natural participation in life of the community, because I think also the community in itself goes through a very difficult time, and there is something in the community that gets broken, which partly reflects maybe in the individual too, or maybe it's a relationship between the community and the individual, where something kind of gets shattered. Weil also goes on to say that money is kind of something that wrecks the collective. It is kind of something that leads to uprootedness. It is one of the major cause of uprootedness, and she says this is because uh, money tends to become the sole motive of or makes gain the sole motive of existence, as if the most important thing for um, the person is to earn, to gain, to make profit. This also kind of is feeding us into the capitalist structure framework. So she is, without saying it, she's saying that she's marking that difference. However, her I feel that her um, she's not fighting capitalism, but she's fighting the functions of capitalism, of what capitalism does to a person, what the kind of hollowness that capitalism brings to a person. Because further on, she goes to say that the structures of functioning can be changed. She's also kind of going into class process, and she's saying that the capitalist class processes should be turned into community class process, or into a class process where the laborer is the proprietor. It's the same thing, uh, but maybe that's for another day. Um Here, she is uh, sharing her difficulty with money, and she says that money has eventually made the wage laborers, the piece workers, the piecework laborers, has made them obsessed with the subject of pay, the subject of remuneration. So the most important thing for the worker has become, what am I earning? Not where my family is, or am I happy where I'm working, but what is it that I'm earning? And when the worker is in this churning of what is it or how much it is that I'm earning, he is kind of, the uprootedness is so deep that he kind of gets in the uh, in a whirlpool, of the same frame of thought, and the uprooted nets get deeper, 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 and deeper. Thus, the worker is going to want to have overtime and overtime, even if the worker is not happy working in the factory. And all of this has kind of not uh, she's not talking about a geographical uprootedness, that it's a spatial uprootedness that has happened. No, she's saying that it's an inner uprooted, a moral uprootedness, that one has been uprooted, cut off, snatched from one's past, from one's spiritual self, from one's sense of community. Even if there is a community, even if there is a laborers, if there's a labor union, if there is a present community, but the function of the community, the sense of the community, is something that the person, the worker, has been uprooted from, has been cut off from. Thus, the thus it will also not be clear for the trade union what to do with the trade union, what to do with its followers, what to do with the people who are part of it, how to plan it, because they themselves are uprooted. So these kind of structures uh, are not what where Simone Weil finds some fresh breath. These are not spaces where she thinks that uh, a seed of transformation can be brought from. Whale makes a very interesting point when she's talking about uprootedness in towns. And she's saying that education is an important factor that creates uprootedness. Now, I think that's a very interesting turn that she's taking. And in today's world, of course, when we have read Amartya Sen and people in international development who are saying that health and education is what is going to give you the opportunity, and it's going to help you in life, and it's going to make or break it. Weil is saying that education is going to uproot you. Now, that I, for me, who is studying development, who's studying international development, it becomes a very important point. And a similar point is being made by the Nobel laureate, Indian thinker, Rabindranath Tagore, where Rabindranath Tagore uses the same metaphor, and he is, of course, older than Simone Weil, and he's also saying that education is like parrot training. It's like we have been uh, given a lot of food, a lot of things that we have to learn, mug up, and then bring it out of our system. But there is nothing that reaches the inside of us. So there is no actual education that is happening. There is learning of some kind that is happening, but education uh, is not really happening. Um, and I found this intersection very interesting, where uh, Whale is kind of taking that turn where she's saying that it was Renaissance where where this gap between culture and people uh, came up, because Europe wanted to kind of cut off its ties from what it had experienced, and it wanted to take a very sharp, radical turn uh, from how it had been living. Now, I think what Whale is trying to say here broadly is that, uh, and this is reading in between the lines, is that Whale believes that your relationship, your ties with the past cannot just be cut off. One will have to engage with it. Maybe something like Freud says, working through. It is important to work through your memories. It's important to work through your past. That is what largely psychoanalysis deals with. Uh, is it then Whale is asking, not absurd, to create a gap between past, present, and the future? And she's very, very critical of it, because she believes, what future will we create if we do not have a sense of, or if we want to keep disavowing our past? Um, and a similar thing is what Rabindranath Tagore is saying, and to engage with his theory, with his understanding, Rabindranath Tagore too went back uh, to education. He went to schooling. He actually went to schooling in a structure that was without walls. What is it to receive education? What is it to learn under a tree? What is it to look at the sky and then write SKY? What is it to be around nature and then learn about environment, what is it to feel the soil and then learn soil chemistry. So this was an interesting cusp that I found in Weil, and I think I was deeply inspired by that, and the uh, angle that kind of became very important for my own research. To take a small quote from Weil's book, she's saying that the result of this gap between culture and humans has kind of led to creation of a different kind of culture which has developed in a very restricted medium, removed from the world in a stovepipe atmosphere, a culture very strongly directed towards and influenced by technical science, very strongly tinged with pragmatism, extremely broken up by specialization, entirely deprived both of contact with the world and at the same time of any window opening to the world beyond. So she's kind of sensing uh, the departmentalization that is going to hit us uh, long back. She's kind of made sense of it long back, and she's kind of seeing that interdisciplinarity over determination are things that are going for a toss, things that are kind of being removed from spaces of thought. She is kind of also uh, partly saying, but not saying it, that these processes have kind of foreclosed practical philosophy, the practice in philosophy, the the philosophy of practice also. So, education, that is kind of something that locates an individual, is now through ways understanding something that uproots the person. It kind of confuses the masses because now the population is kind of in a situation where it doesn't know what is right and wrong because the history has been subtracted, it has been taken away from the uh, the person, from the student, the individual, and to go on to say, she's also saying that sense of education that is maybe existed before Renaissance has been tarnished, and something that Tagore would say, that why in Indian booklets where the child is being taught A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Why is there a Z for zebra when an Indian child in a village has perhaps never seen a zebra in his or her their life? A xylophone, uh, never seen. So then, what is it that education is also tending to do? Uh, Perhaps the motive of education has changed. The motive of education has turned towards the process of uprooting. It has turned towards a process of cutting off one from the past, and to cut off one from the past also means uh, to kind of put everybody on a same starting line, to kind of create a homogenization where I don't have any memory. How do I uh, process or state that I'm different from you? So that sense has been plucked off from individuals. The sense then to also reason on the basis of experience not only in the sense of uh, sensory experience, that has gone for the person. But the most interesting thing that Simone Weil is saying is that this uprootedness is self propagating. She says the one who is uprooted will have just two choices: either to die or to uproot the other two. So it's a chain movement, a chain reaction. I find myself uprooted, I'm going to uproot the other person or 10% people I meet. Uh, Now, for her, she says the world only has two options. One, we can let the world transform into a society that is functioning on an uprootedness, or we turn towards a process that can possibly give us roots. Whale is inclined towards the option of uh, transforming the world in a manner that it manages to find its roots. And what would the process be? So the process for her is uh, not to take the Marxian route. She is not perhaps trying to uh, fight, or she is not trying to get into the Marxist uh, solutions of revolution. But for her, it's an inner revolution that we'll have to bring. For her, what is important is that uprootedness is a malice, is a disease. And this disease will have to be cured. We will have to find our roots. We will have to get back to our relation with the past. We'll have to go back to finding our ways to naturally participate in the community life. And again, I would bring a very interesting uh, philosopher to our discussion, the philosopher called Mahatma Gandhi, uh, Karamchand Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was a very important leader or a figure during the independence movement in India. But what was most important for him was not independence from the British for the Indians, but independence um, of the inner diseases. Her, his aim was to rid ourselves of violence. He vouched for satyagraha, vouched for satya ka agra, which is the Hindi for um, a quest for truth. And for him also, it was very important to work on who we are, where do we come from, and therefore what it makes of us. It was very important that we manage to find ourselves, that we manage to find ourselves, be okay with it, and and his idea was that we will have to work very hard to reach a space of nonviolence, to reach a space of where one can do something for the other, where one can sacrifice for the other and yet not be disturbed by the fact that I sacrificed for somebody else. So I here found a lot of similarities between Wales' understanding of a spiritual self. And for Gandhi also, he's a very spiritual person, and he believes that India uh, gives him uh, that belief in spirituality. And he believes the day India is going to lose its spiritual roots, India will not remain to be India. It's going to become something else. It's going to stop giving him that motivation, and he will thus change. And maybe then he will want to leave the country. And he is, of course, a figure who has uh, effortless, who has uh, worked uh, a lot. He has been the face of the movement, and his philosophy kind of is entrenched in our political selves. So there, I thought the kind of uh, understanding Whale is bringing to us, where she is saying that do not fight maybe structures, maybe, and that's a question, I think, but fight the process. How will you engage with a structure, is what is important for her. And that in itself is going to change the structure. She's saying that if we become more um, oriented by love, happiness, relationships, uh, the capitalist structure perhaps will itself break down or will transform into something that is not uh, in the framework of wanting to uproot um, everybody who becomes part of it. Yeah. So I think that is my takeaway from Whale, and I found her very powerful as a philosopher, and I personally was deeply motivated by her, especially I think her zeal of managing to say the things that she wants to, and managing to mark her differences with also the Marxists who were very powerful at that time, and the ability to say what she felt the truth was, or what could, in a way, um, in her understanding, save the world. The other thing I found was very important in what Whale was writing, maybe that comes from her um, experience in the factories, is that she made space for praxis. She created a space for empathy also when she says that I will have to go to the factory and experience what people are experiencing as workers. How will I fight a case of um, a case for the proletariats if I do not know what are they going through? Uh, so in some form, she is kind of creating a space for practice that you will have to engage with how and what people are doing to also be able to theorize it. That I found was very powerful. Yeah, so I think that was my presentation, and thank you so much.